Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Rebecca Remains by Jessica Aiken-Hall, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. The wind blew the branches against the bedroom window, causing a screech so loud I jumped out of bed. My heart thumped against my chest as I made my way over there to check things out. There was no breeze. I swallowed the lump that formed in the back of my throat and climbed back into bed. Keith was fast asleep, like all the other times it didn't appear that he heard what I did. This wasn't the first time a noise had pulled me out of slumber, but it was the loudest. I pulled the pillow over my head and closed my eyes. The beating of my heart lulled me back to sleep as my breathing returned to normal. "Get out while you still can," the voice danced off the walls in the empty room. I looked around for her, but I was the only one there. "Hello?" She didn't answer. I opened the door and walked to the living room. It wasn't me with Keith in our wedding photo. A gorgeous redhead with a face full of freckles stood in my place. My heart sank to the pit of my stomach as tears rushed down my face. "Who are you?" Still no answer. I was nowhere to be seen in any of the photos. Every picture she stood in my place. A beautiful smile on her face was pressed behind the glass. "Who are you?" I fell to the floor as I waited for her answer. My head rested on my knees as my tears soaked my nightgown. "Get out while you still can. Get out before you are just a forgotten memory." When I opened my eyes, she wasn't there. The room was still empty. I picked the photo up off the coffee table to get a better look at the mysterious woman, but it was me this time. I wasn't smiling, but it was me. The once happy photo was tainted with misery. "Who are you?" My voice took me out of the dream and woke Keith up. "What are you talking about, Tessa?" He squinted his eyes as he turned on his phone. "It's 2:00 in the morning." "I'm sorry, I had a bad dream." I pressed my body into him to try to push the images from the nightmare out of my mind. "Another one?" He pulled me close and fell back to sleep. How could I make my dreams match my life? Keith was everything I ever wished for in a husband. He took care of me, and I knew he'd do the same when we made our perfect little family. He had a great job, and he was thoughtful. What could these dreams be trying to tell me? And who was that woman who kept appearing when I closed my eyes? In Keith's arms, I let the warmth of his skin keep me safe from the unknowns that lingered in the air of the night. Last month marked our first anniversary. The months passed by so quickly, it was hard to believe we were standing on the beach almost a year ago when we eloped. After just a couple of months of dating, I knew he was the one. I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him, and he knew it too. He asked me to marry him on our 2-month anniversary. A big traditional wedding was planned, but Keith said he couldn't wait any longer. 3 months after the engagement, we found a justice of the peace and took a day trip to the New Hampshire seacoast. It was so spur of the moment, it was romantic. Not a single person knew what we were up to. We stopped along the way, and I found the most beautiful sheer white dress that blew in the sea breeze as we exchanged vows. My sister, Emily, still wouldn't talk to me. She was supposed to be my maid of honor, and still hadn't gotten over being left out. She had the audacity to tell me she thought Keith was trying to control me, but she didn't know him like I did. Maybe that was what these dreams were about. I did miss Emily. Maybe I just needed to give her a call and try to smooth things over. When morning finally came, Keith was already in the shower. I slipped on my lavender bathrobe and slippers and went to start his breakfast. The smell of coffee hit my nose as I entered the kitchen. I opened the refrigerator and took out the eggs and wheat bread. After slipping 2 slices of bread in the toaster, I cracked 2 eggs into the frying pan and listened to them sizzle. "Good morning, sleepyhead. I didn't think you were ever going to get up." Keith wrapped his arms around my waist and kissed my neck. "Sorry, I guess I didn't hear the alarm go off. I didn't get much sleep last night. I had another bad dream." "Again?" He sat at the table and opened the newspaper. "What was this one about?" He raised his eyebrows as he looked over at the paper at me. "Oh, nothing really, just the same old stuff." I hadn't been able to tell him about the details. Something inside me told me to keep it to myself. I placed his breakfast in front of him and sat at the table as he began to eat. "Can I ask you a strange question?" I pulled my robe tight against me. "Go ahead." Keith took a bite of toast and focused his attention to the sports page. "Do you know anyone with long red hair and freckles?" His coffee spilled on the table, dripping onto the floor in his lap. "Jesus fucking Christ!" He stood up and brushed the coffee off his lap before leaving the kitchen. I rushed to grab a towel to clean up the mess before he returned and refilled his mug. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you." I dropped my head as he sat back down. "Why are you sorry? Did you spill my coffee?" His sigh hung in the air as he picked up his mug and took a drink. "No." "Right. I didn't either. Must be the uneven floorboards in this place." "Yeah, that must be it." I picked at the pink polish on my nails. "What was your question again?" It's nothing really." When my eyes met his, I felt better. He always had a way of making things better with just a smile. "No. What did you want to ask me?" I just wanted to know if you know anyone with long red hair and freckles." "No." The safety of his smile faded. "Where did that come from?" "I'm sorry. I know it was a stupid question. It was just something from my dream." Keith stood up, pushed in his chair, and walked over to me. He bent down and kissed the top of my head. "Why don't you just drop it? You know dreams don't mean anything." "Yeah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought it up." "Have a good day. I'll call you at lunch." After Keith left, the desire to call Emily overcame me. I was ready to do anything to make the dream stop. With the phone in my hand, my palm began to sweat. I just wanted to get back to normal. I hoped enough time had passed and she felt the same. "Emily?" "Yeah? Who's this?" The voice on the other end of the phone sounded like a stranger. It's Tess." I cleared my throat as I waited for her to answer. "I'm surprised you're still alive." The sting in her words made me instantly regret my decision. "What are you talking about?" A sigh lingered between us. "I just wanted to call and tell you I was sorry, and I miss you. I miss us." "I miss you too. The you before your husband brainwashed you." I don't understand why you hate Keith so much. He's a really great guy once you get to know him." "Tess, have you ever Googled his name?" "No. Why would I?" I wrapped the string of my bathrobe around my finger. "Oh my God, you don't know." Emily's voice softened. "Tessa, can you meet me at the Swiftwater Cafe?" "Don't know what? What's going on? What are you trying to prove?" "Nothing." She paused. The silence in the air made my stomach flip. "I just miss you, and I want to see you." "I'd like that. I've missed you so much." "Okay. See you in an hour." What was she talking about? I knew she hated Keith, and she had tried to get me to leave him before we eloped. The desire to know what she was talking about made me want to log on to Google, but there was no time if I was going to get to Swiftwater on time. It would have to wait. A quick shower was all I had time for. I didn't want to be late to meet Emily after a year apart. I was glad she wanted to see me. I didn't know what to expect when I called her, and I'm still not sure what will come of this meeting. When I pulled into the parking lot, I noticed Emily sitting in her car. Still the same blue Subaru Outback she had the last time I saw her. She never did like change. Emily got out of her car, her enormous pink tote bag on her shoulder as she waited for me to approach her. "Hey, Em." I dropped my head as I walked closer to her. "I missed you." "Get over here and give me a hug." With her arms open, I fell into her. "I missed you too, Tessa." She took a step back. "You look great. Are you still going to yoga 100 times a week?" Her sarcastic tone hadn't changed. "No, I actually haven't been to yoga in ages." I straightened my jacket and took Emily's hand. "You look great, too." "Yeah, I'm sure I'm a beauty queen." She brushed her ash blonde hair with her hand. "Let's get some coffee." I followed her into the cafe. She tossed her tote bag into our usual booth and took off her jacket. After unzipping my coat, I tossed it on the bench and pulled my wallet out of my purse. "My treat." "I'll have my usual. I bet you don't remember what it is anymore." Emily placed her hands on her hips. Of course I remember. Mocha latte with skim milk and 3 sweeteners. Do you remember mine? I raised my eyebrow as I waited. Vanilla iced coffee, less ice, half cream and half sugar. I'm impressed. We used to come here all the time. I'd be a complete asshole if I didn't remember what my baby sister likes. I've really missed this. I smiled and walked over to place our order. Me too. It's just not the same here without you. Her words stung a little more than they should have. This was our place. I wouldn't have dreamed of bringing anyone else with me. With our drinks in hand, I headed back to our booth. Emily had her iPad on the table. Tess, come sit over here. I have to show you something. Emily patted the seat next to her. I closed my eyes and took a long breath before handing her the cup. I don't want to talk about Keith today. Tess, I can't live with myself if I don't at least show this to you. Do what you want with the information, but if anything were to happen to you, I'd never be able to forgive myself. Curiosity got the best of me, and I squeezed into the seat next to Emily. What are you talking about? Has Keith ever mentioned Rebecca? She pushed the iPad across the table. A photo of the redhead from my dream was smiling back at me. The moisture left my mouth, not allowing me to speak. I took a sip of my iced coffee to try to wrap my mind around what I was looking at. Who is she? Tess, Keith was married before. I guess technically he still is. This is his wife. I picked up the iPad to get a better look at Rebecca. She was beautiful. Her long flowing red hair framed her perfect freckled face. I don't understand. Click on the picture. Emily reached over and tapped the link to open the article. She's missing. Well, she was. Now she's presumed dead. I scrolled through the article, trying to make sense of it all. I couldn't. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't understand why Keith hadn't told me about Rebecca. I handed the iPad back to Emily. I can't read this. Do you know what happened to her? I've been following this story since I Googled Keith last year. I've read every article I could find. There really isn't anything that says what happened, but people think Keith did it. They think he killed her. Why would people think that? I held my drink in my hands as I examined the cup, not able to look at Emily. Tess, they had a history. What do you mean? There had been multiple reports of domestic violence. The cops had been called to their house so many times. People speculated that he finally killed her. I shook my head. Why didn't he tell me about her? Why would he? I mean, honestly, I get why he didn't, but that's what makes it worse. If he were innocent, wouldn't he have said something? I don't know. Maybe he just needed to move on. Maybe it's nothing. Keith's a great guy. You should give him a chance. If you get to know him, you'll see he's nothing like what those articles are painting him to be. Emily shook her head. I had a feeling you wouldn't believe me. He really has you brainwashed. I thought you were smarter than this. That's not fair. Remember how Graham always told us to trust our guts? She placed her hand on her stomach. I have never had a good feeling about Keith. I thought in the beginning I was jealous that he was taking you from me, but I know now it was more than that. Please, just listen to me. At least open your mind to the fact that he might not be who you think he is. I remember. The memory brought a smile to my face. I miss Graham so much. Tess, I'm not usually wrong about people. I love you and I want you to be safe. Emily put her hand on top of mine and looked into my eyes. I don't know what I would do if something happened to you. I'll be fine. I know Keith would never hurt me. He's never laid a hand on me. I'm happy to hear that. She gave my hand a squeeze before taking a drink of her latte. Just be careful, okay? Okay, I will. I got up to sit on my side of the table. I felt my purse vibrating when I sat next to it. I pulled my phone out and saw Keith's name light up my screen. Oh, here he is now. I gave Emily a smile before answering. Hey, babe. Where are you? How come you haven't answered my calls? I've been calling all morning. The worry in his voice confirmed that Emily didn't know what she was talking about. I'm sorry, I'm at Swiftwater Cafe with Emily. I had my phone in my purse. I called you 15 times. You didn't hear it ring? No, I had it on silent. I guess I forgot to turn it back on. What if there was an emergency? What if I needed to get a hold of you? The concern oozed off his words. I know, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to worry you. It won't happen again. I love you. I pushed up a smile as I turned the ringer on and slipped the phone back into my bag. Emily had her hands folded in front of her and matched my smile. He was just worried about me. Does that happen a lot? Does he always call to check up on you? No, that's the first time. That was the truth. It was also the first time I had left the house without Keith since the last time Emily and I had hung out. He didn't usually call me during the day. It was strange that the one time he called me was the one time I wasn't home. I should be grateful he loves me so much that he was so worried about me.